Good morning. As I was talking to Kathy, she says, it's a laser session, so it's not a lot of time, but it's your time to be provocative. And I thought, well, in this political time, I don't have to work too hard. We're living provocatively. And as I was actually preparing my PowerPoint, and I was trying to get it off to Kathy, I had to actually change it because one of the Republicans from Pennsylvania resigned. And I thought, provocative, it was for ethics. And during this political time, right, we've had congressional members resign, step aside because of either ethics infractions, sexual harassment. And so we have all of these political distractions. So I think the question before us, even before we think about how does one really plan for a legislative agenda, and when we think about how we develop an agenda, it's where one can be focused and planful, but we're distracted every day. There's so many political distractions. So how can we be thoughtful and follow through with thinking about what is best for children, what really meets their needs, how to keep them safe, and all the things that we know are important for safety and well-being of children at the forefront for us, for our lawmakers, for the state, for the nation. How does one do that? No. Okay. Yep, I got it. Okay, so this is the current reality in which all of us are living in. So how do we really develop quality laws, legislation that really keeps our eye on the prize, which our prize is our young people. Those are our prize. So my question is it a challenge or an opportunity? I think our young people over the past month have shown us that it really can be both. I see it as an opportunity some days. Our young people really put their stake in the ground and showed us that it really can be an opportunity, that we can keep our eye focused on what's important as they marched in every city and absolutely at the Capitol, showing us that they can give voice to what's important, which is safety for our young people in the schools, in the community, in our churches, community safety, keeping our young people safety. They felt that it was so important that they wanted to give voice to the lawmakers, to the adults who are supposed to protect them, that they came out and said, this is what's important to us. So this is an opportunity. But we have challenges too. And so in terms of our current reality, how do we make changing laws, putting forth good legislation, making safety and well-being for kids in our communities who are in foster care, who you advocate for every day, at the forefront of this. And I assume that it's a mixed bag in every state and jurisdiction, but overall, this really is our current reality. So with 10 minutes, and this was really supposed to be simple, but it really isn't. And so this is what you and I tangle with every single day in terms of getting money to support our young people, getting legislation passed, getting the right kinds of language and legislation and bills passed that are important. So kind of just to summarize some of this, there are about 66 bills in Congress today that are related to youth in foster care, children, young people that are floating today. There are 42 bills in the House and 24 in the Senate. There are two caucuses that are focused on what's important to young people. We have the Children's Healthcare Caucus that really focuses on building support to improve the quality of care for children and their access to quality care. And of course, the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth, where they're really working to develop policy recommendations for improving child welfare outcomes. Within our budget, we have many bills that really have millions and perhaps billions of dollars. One of them is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which carry many of our budget items for kids, children and youth who are in our foster care system. We continue on a continuing resolution, and the omnibus has many bills before it that really impact our children and youth. There are 65 or 66 opioid-based bills that are before the legislation that are being marked up right now. So you can see the range. And what's also important to us that we talked about are the immigration and DACA bills that impact our young people. So kind of where does all this kind of go? Well, you can see that the 2018 elections is a critical time. And what happened during the presidential elections, they said we focused on the election and not on voting. It's really important that we get out there and vote because it really matters. And when we think about the elections, you'll see that all 435 seats are up for re-election. And for the Senate, 33 of the 100 seats are up for re-election, and there are some special elections going on, and it might change. And then for the governor seats, which impacts the states, there are 39 states and territories where governors are up for elections. So state elections really determine party controls and redistricting. And, we've been doing a lot of training around voting and redistricting, and we think that that's really important for folks to learn about and understand, because the more you understand about voting and redistricting, it really helps you understand how that impacts moving your agenda forward, and really very, very closely. So really, as I was just saying, voting really matters. 2014 saw the lowest voter turnout in years, and we know that this election really matters in 2018. As I said, there are 66 laws that are before Congress that really relate to children and youth. Many of them will not move. So if you think that elections don't matter, and we have 66 laws that have not moved for our children, if you followed CHIP and you saw how politicized CHIP was for our young people, kids need health care. The whole issue around Medicaid. This is really important at the state level and at the national level for us to pay attention to elections, to pay attention to what happens with these bills as they sit in the House and sit in the Senate, what happens in your state, because it really is a reflection of what happens in our state systems, so that things that are important for our kids and our youth They don't move, they don't get the right services, they don't get the right dollars to actually get them the services they need for a healthy life. So this is just the legislative outlook. We have another continuing resolution that we have to look forward to. The opioid legislation, there are 66 bills that have not moved. That impacts your states directly. That impacts the families in your states directly. That impacts the children and youth in your states directly. And then all of the unforeseen events that are happening. So I have 3 minutes, they say. So what do you do? How do you really move an agenda in these highly politicized times when things really aren't moving, and every day you wake up to something else happening? This is what I say. We do need to have a set criteria for what we want for children. So what are your top 3 or 4 goals that you want to happen? And then at the same time, I am asking you to be flexible, because every day something happens with the news. So we really do need to be flexible, responsive. We need to respond every day and yet stay targeted. It sounds crazy, and it is crazy, but we can do it, and our kids and families deserve that. And we have to pay attention to the 2018 midterm elections. And then lastly, we have to go out and vote, encourage our families to vote, encourage our friends to vote, and remember that although there are lots of challenges, there are so many great opportunities. Thank you.